Hi everyone, I'm Vladislav Novikov, and joining me again is Yuri Rashkin, host of the YouTube channel Rashkin Rapper and local elected official in the state of Wisconsin. Yuri, hello.
Hello, Ladislav. We've taken a break. It's good to be back with you. As you can see behind me is a shelf picture of a shelf of books because I feel it really helps to look more educated. But just for anyone, I was hanging out in Europe for a couple of weeks, and so this is a bookshelf of a Austrian bookstore. It's just in German, so it's just for show. But glad to
Oh,
see you nonetheless.
yeah, it's true for me, and I think we can start with a new, fresh news line. So, Trump is now going after the Fed. In his sights, Lisa Koch, a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and what's her big crime? Allegedly taking out a mortgage on a second home and listed it as her primary resident. Uh, it's wow, because talk about micromanagement. Trump has outdone himself this time. He called the culprit red-handed, and seriously, how does he manage to do it all?
It's incredible, isn't it? He can just about control traffic on every intersection. He is just that involved in making sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed in every legal document signed by anybody that he disapproves of. We have an interesting moment here because, on one hand, we have this specific situation where a governor of Federal Reserve System is effectively fired, attempted to be fired, although she says that she will be fighting this. So good luck to her. One of these days, we will find a decision, I am sure, one of these days, maybe, where Supreme Court will disagree with whatever president wants effectively and stop him. But so far, we haven't really reached that point yet. And so good luck to Governor Cook in getting her grievance addressed. I think there's a lot to discuss there. First of all, starting with that violation that she's accused of is not only known in the United States as the most common violation made by anyone, because people routinely check these things in an application one way versus another. It is an ethics question that is fair to ask of anyone, including Governor of Federal Reserve. But this is one of those violations that is usually punishable by a small fine from the company itself, not from the federal government and president of the United States, who decided to become the main bank regulation enforcer in the country. So so there's a first question of how serious is this a violation, and then how is being fired from this job has to do with even that violation. Even though I think that there's a lot of questions that yet need to be answered before we even come to conclusion that there was a violation. But accusation of a violation on one hand and a very important position on the other hand. It depends on, as they say, the nurses. You know, when will the nurses come in and pick up the patient, put him in straitjacket? Until then, he is president of the United States. And so if he doesn't like somebody, he's going to be looking for ways to derail them and get them out of his way where he can do what he wants, as in make money. And this is a lesson. This is no less of a lesson than what happened to former National Security Advisor John Bolton, whose house was searched by the FBI on the very same day that already previously published information about the Epstein case was once again handed over to House Representatives Committee, causing it to potentially have another headline about Epstein case. So let's instead have headlines about John Bolton. But that's what happens to people in the United States who are standing in the way of this administration. Granted, we are still looking at the very kind of a top level, top tier people at the moment, but it's only a question of time because ultimately this administration is not interested in people providing actual information, whether it is journalists and free press or whether it's people within its own administration that provide numbers that a president doesn't like, whether it's about unemployment or crime, or to what extent our bombing of Iran was successful at destroying the Iran nuclear program. The person in charge of the intelligence service that gave that information that was contradicting the president has just been fired. So we have a list of people that this is the emperor is naked, and anyone who disagrees and says that he's anything but beautifully dressed is going to be let go and fired. And this is a kind of an interesting situation because really it's an opportunity not to deal with a pretty ugly person. But on the other hand, people have careers, they have expectations, they have hope, aspirations, they want something for themselves and for this country. And to imagine that the naked emperor who is so concerned about, like South Park has said all sorts of horrible things about him. I mean, I can't top that. But that's the level of governance that we have in the United States at the moment, and it certainly sends a message of weakness. That's what bothers me so much, is that it shows United States as a very weak, very a government and a state and a country that is not projecting strength. This kind of leader, I guess, I don't know how else to call this person, is seen by everybody else outside of the United States pretty consistently as a buffoon. Who is destroying the reputation of the United States. And it is costing us in terms of our trade partners when Chancellor of Germany, Merz, says that Germany needs to reorient itself and find other trade partners, and in many other ways. But in this kind of a fake praise that we are now finding ourselves in. Yes, congratulations to Zelensky. He went and had a great meeting because he thanked President Trump like 12 times. He started the sentence by praising the president and ended a sentence by praising the president. Very good diplomacy on the part of Zelensky. Yes, it's a little mocking of United States in a way, but that's what we have at the moment.
And Yuri, when I read this news, news about Lisa Koch and Federal Reserve and Trump, I think I already saw this, but where? And I think I saw this in Russia when Putin get media, when Putin get police, oligarchs, and take it all. And just yesterday, Trump said he doesn't like dictators, and that he's not a dictator himself. But cases like the one with Lisa Koch are sparking out outrage among politicians, and many are pointing to these authoritarian notes.
Look, first of all, I think it's Lisa Cook.
I'm sorry, my English is not perfect.
That's all right. It sounded more exciting than I think it really is. I think that the influence there is from the markets, because politicians have shown themselves to be weak, to be manageable, to be controllable. The markets are somewhat similar because there's a desire of people to make money. And if they feel that there's opportunity, they're going to run there. And that's pretty easy to control to some extent with just a tweet or two. But I think that when fundamentally people lose faith and trust in government and in information that government provides, that is catastrophic. Russia really is a proof of a failed economy that functions in an environment of lack of trust. When nobody trusts anybody, and it's all built on corruption, then you're going to have very weak economy that's basically built on exporting your natural resources, or as for late Senator John McCain said, a gas station masquerading as a country, as a state that at the same time also attacks its customers. So to say that Trump is reminding people of Putin, well, Trump would be thrilled. with such comparison. He often wants to be compared to Putin. He wonders if he is similar to Putin. So thank you. I think on his behalf, I will accept your high praise of saying that this is just like Putin. Yes, it's not by accident. In fact, I feel that it's not necessarily even so much Putin as there are certain patterns that people who fancy themselves to be, well, I know Trump doesn't like the word dictators, but he also doesn't like word ceasefire, but he likes the word truce. So I think that it's a matter of verbiage. I think that Trump will find a word that he can live with, and it's going to be just a matter of, he's a public relations person. This is what he does. But Putin and any other dictator or whatever is following the same patterns. You got to shut down free media. You got to take over business. We see Trump just the other day agreeing to a 10% stake in Intel. And you know who praised him? Now this is great because great. I don't know how sarcastically I can be anymore. This is like quotes and quote marks. But we have President of the United States who is praised by Putin and by Senator Bernie Sanders. Because Bernie Sanders, who is known to be as a socialist, is saying that this is the right approach for government to take stake in these failing businesses rather than just hand them over money, as Biden was planning on doing. He was going to do these grant systems, but Trump converted that into ownership. So socialism is on its way, just not from the party you may have expected. And if that's the situation, then does it really matter what free markets say? No, we'll just nationalize them. We'll let them make money for as long as we can, and then we'll do something else, because ultimately all of these regimes and they lead to war. And that's bad for business. So I think hopefully that whether it's through understanding what impact firing of Lisa Cook has on economy in general, yes, this is one person at a time that's going to have to come to this realization. But this is going to long-term put the United States in a terrible position where we're just going to have our allies and people who were thinking about doing business with the United States realize that this is more and more like a banana republic where dictator, I'm sorry, there must be a better word, that just does whatever he wants with no consequences. The problem is that this is America. This is not, I don't know, I don't want to insult any other, Russia, I guess, that can do whatever it wants, because there's always the rule of world order that existed since World War II that we are kind of presumed we live in. But it was held together by United States that accepted its responsibility for this. And if we have this person in charge of the United States that has not just been accused of mortgage fraud, but he's been found guilty of 34 financial felonies, then the country has no trust, the system has no trust, the economy loses its foundation. It's not just a matter of shifting the levers up or down on interest rates. You got to have trust in the United States, and that's what's being destroyed.
And by the way, yesterday, reporters noticed something odd on the skin on Trump's right hand. Looked darker, almost black. And as someone who's watched Pirates of the Caribbean and know what the black mark means, my mind went straight to, wait a second, he shook hand with Putin. That must be it. So why be surprised? But on the serious note, there are reasons to think something might actually be wrong with Trump's health. Or is it really just from that handshake with Putin?
So we're back to the nurses conversation. Yes, I think there's several things that are wrong with this person physically, emotionally, psychologically, and he's not being clearly treated well. I think that for starters, we have somebody who's got a very strong narcissistic disorder, who, instead of being prescribed medications and some kind of a environment that's going to help him, instead is constantly just being fed and reinforced this problem that the person already has. We don't know what is actually happening with Donald Trump. We just know that there was one announcement about his, blood circulation issue, and we see that his legs seem to be falling out of his shoes or whatever. It's there's some deformity forming, and his he's changing colors. Who knows? I mean, we can always start the conspiracy like the one that there is in Russia about Putin really being dead in a refrigerator, and really it's just all these doubles. And so, or maybe there's a more American version called Weekend at Bernie's. I guess we're bringing up Bernie here twice, but it's a different Bernie movie about this dead guy, and he's these two young guys who carry him around, moving his arms and legs, and he looks like he is alive, but he's really not. And when you look at people around Trump, it's there's a lot of people to prop him up, and there's no adults in the room who are going to say, "Wait a minute, this person is in need of serious intervention and help." And so we're going to watch this president disintegrate slowly or quickly before our eyes, with the understanding that what's coming after him is Vice President J.D. Vance. And, I hope that we're not going to be remembering this as the good old days of the late Trump administration, where he was just saying crazy stuff and doing crazy things.
Yeah, but Trump said the Zelensky-Putin meeting depends on them alone. So is Trump now just a spectator watching the match?
Well, I think he would like to be more of a supplier, supplying preferably both sides or maybe just Russia, whatever.
Mhm.
Because the United States started out as an ally. Then Trump quickly shifted us in a position of more of a moderator, mediator. And when that clearly failed, and it's important to acknowledge that in the United States, whenever you have somebody reciting the failures of this administration, they inevitably start with the fact that war in Ukraine did not end in 24 hours, as Donald Trump has stated it would. That's kind of a starting point. But at this point, being a spectator, maybe like at a steel cage match, where on one hand he's saying, hey, if you're not going to let Ukraine attack, it's never going to win. But on the other hand, when we find out from Wall Street Journal that administration is holding back weapons that would allow Ukraine to hit deep into Russia, you realize that this is really more of a Trump whispering into Zelensky's ear that you're not going to win, you have no cards, which is kind of similar to what he was saying in late February, in that meeting of February 28th, I believe, in the White House. So on some level, rhetoric doesn't change, but it's almost like we and our expectations are getting more in alignment. It's almost like a stages of grief and loss when we slowly come to understand that this president just is not going to help Ukraine. And so the question here is what can be done diplomatically to prevent him from fully joining Russia. And because I think if it compared to divorce, we saw Trump announce that he's moving out to Zelensky at the White House in February. And now, we had all the attorneys, we had all the German bankers, we had everybody come in and try to divide the stuff and try to figure out how this marriage could maybe keep working, because Trump really would like to move in with Putin. And he looks for any opportunity to go there. There are other people, I guess, again, that word dictator again, but Yanukovych, Assad, that ended up in Russia as well. So perhaps Donald Trump's dreams will come true. And when he says that he goes to, whether it's Alaska or Helsinki, he thinks he's going to Russia. He announced as much, it seems like every time. So perhaps he will just go to Russia and leave us all alone here.
Okay, and what about one important meeting? Putin and Xi Jinping are meeting very soon. What do you think that meeting will really be about?
I think on some level, there are some natural areas of interest. that we see where China is interested in more of economic expansion, where they find resources in countries and they try to extract those resources from countries. But on the other hand, Russia, which provides hired goons for different dictators, and then keeping dictators in power. Again, the dictators seems like the theme of the day. In power is this is what they have a natural partnership there as guards, really, for the Chinese economic expansion. So there are some possibilities for Africa, for other places where Russia and China could work together. On the other hand, China right now is in a very difficult negotiation with the United States, difficult in a sense that the United States would really like to get those rare earth minerals from China, starting with those magnets, because it's been reported already months ago at this point that China actually has magnets that are crucial, vital, and very, very important for our planes, rockets, and all sorts of things, because other things melt, but these darn Chinese magnets don't. And if we don't get those magnets, then Trump is ready to put 200% tariffs on something of China. Well, you know what? Back to that we go again. Trump already lost that war once. He can lose it again if he wants to. But the conversation between Putin and Xi Jinping has now a different kind of a flavor to it, because in the past, Russia was kind of this crazy guy running around attacking neighbors, and China was just trying to be kind of a, supplier to anybody, having really not burdened by morals or ethics or any of those things. But now, when Putin is basically riding on top of American president, then I feel like his stock with Chinese leaders got to be going up. So this is a position of power for Putin. I am only curious because you see in the United States, when somebody gets more famous than Trump, Trump doesn't like it. In the first term, there was an episode with Stephen Bannon when he became really known as more powerful than the president. Ooh, that was the beginning of the end for that guy. Well, beginning of end of that chapter, really. And now we see that the various people, if they become more famous, so like Elon Musk, we saw how that relationship flamed out. So I'm curious to see when Time Magazine and everybody else is going to start putting Putin on front page, and perhaps that will send a signal to Donald Trump that something is amiss. I think it's nice that First Lady Melania is feeling maybe jealous, and seeing that space in Donald Trump's heart is firmly occupied with the words Vladimir Putin. But either way, I think this is something that is becoming very apparent to, I think, most people in the United States. I don't know, maybe some like it because they think that whatever Donald Trump does is great. But there's a lot of people who are very, very concerned about this budding bromance.
Thank you, Yuri. It was great hearing your thoughts. And to our viewers, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and to Yuri as well. So see you next time.
See you next time. Take care.
Thank you.